Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we sift through, well, frankly, mountains of information, research papers, books, detailed notes, basically all the hard yards so you don't have to.
Yeah, we condense it all down into the stuff that really matters, the insights that stick with you.
Exactly. And our mission today is to give you, our listener, a real shortcut to understanding something that genuinely hits us all every single day. This thing called the paradox of choice.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to unpack how having tons of options, which sounds great on the surface, right? More is better.
That's the intuition, definitely.
But how it can actually backfire, how it can paradoxically make us less satisfied, more anxious, even genuinely distressed sometimes.
It's funny, it's so woven into the fabric of modern life, this abundance of choice, that most of the time we don't even consciously register it.
Right.
But once someone points it out, once you start seeing it through this lens, suddenly it's everywhere. You really can't unsee it.
That's such a good way to put it. And it makes me think of this anecdote. Maybe it'll resonate with you listening. Imagine just needing to buy a new pair of jeans. Simple enough, right?
Should be.
Should be. But for me, recently,
Nope.
I walked into a store, thought, okay, 5 minutes, in and out. Instead, it somehow morphed into this whole day-long project. Seriously.
Oh, I believe it. The jean aisle is a minefield now.
It is. I was faced with this diagram, like an actual diagram showing the subtle differences between regular fit, relaxed fit, and easy fit. Regular, relaxed, easy. What do these tiny distinctions really mean when you just need pants?
It's gone way beyond just waist and leg length, hasn't it? Now you need this expert level discernment for something that used to be totally straightforward.
Totally. And I fell straight into the trap, tried them all on, stared at myself in the mirror, even asked the staff for more details, just invested so much time and brain power into this tiny decision.
And the kicker.
The kicker is I ended up picking easy fit, partly because relaxed fit just sounded, I don't know, negative, like I was admitting I'd gotten a bit soft around the middle and needed extra room.
The hidden connotations.
Exactly. And the jeans were fine, totally fine. But the experience just hammered home this point. Buying pants should absolutely not be a day-long saga that leaves you feeling mentally exhausted.
And that feeling right there is the entry point.
Yeah. That's where it gets really interesting. You start thinking, hang on, choice is supposed to be about freedom, right? About possibility. But when it gets like this, it actually starts to feel tyrannical. Like it's ruling you, not the other way around.
But that's precisely the paradox we're diving into. We all instinctively believe more choice equals more freedom equals better outcomes. It feels like progress.
Right. It's the American dream almost. More options.
But the actual research,
Yeah.
from psychologists, economists, decision scientists, it paints a much more complicated picture. An overload of options can genuinely reduce our satisfaction. It can ramp up anxiety. And in some pretty profound ways, it can even contribute to serious psychological distress, even depression.
Wow. Okay, so what we're going to do here today, we're going to really dig into why more isn't always better. When it comes to choosing, we'll look at the research, give you the clear insights, but also, and this is crucial, some practical ways to handle this choice-heavy world we live in.
The central idea is this tension. We absolutely need some choice. It's fundamental for feeling autonomous, for our well-being, that freedom is key.
Sure, no one wants no choice.
Exactly. But when it tips over into a genuine overload of choices, that's when it can become debilitating. It creates more stress than it does satisfaction.
So it's a deep dive into freedom, self-determination, variety, but also the hidden, often ignored costs of trying to keep every single option open all the time.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Let's get into some real-world examples, starting right at the bottom, as our source kind of jokingly puts it, just shopping. The everyday stuff that's somehow become this complex decision gauntlet.
Yeah, the supermarket is maybe the most vivid example. You think, okay, grocery run, quick chore, but just stop and think about the sheer volume of stuff staring back at you now.
It's wild.
The average supermarket has, over 30,000 different items? And get this. Something like 20,000 new products are introduced every single year.
20,000 new things.
Yeah, and most of them fail, statistically. But for that brief time they're on the shelf, they're another thing demanding your attention, another potential choice to consider or ignore.
It's staggering. I was looking at the specific numbers from our source material, and it's not just a little bit more choice, it's an explosion. Take the cracker aisle, humble crackers, right?
Our source found 85 different varieties and brands. 85. It's not just a snack, it's like a research project before you even get to the cheese pairing.
Low sodium, fat-free, different shaped sizes, imported artisanal things.
Exactly. And then right next door, over 285 kinds of cookies, including 21 different chocolate chip cookies and 7 types of goldfish. Are they crackers? Are they cookies? Who knows? The decision fatigue is real.
And it's not just snacks. Go wander down the health and beauty aisle. You're facing like 60 types of suntan lotion, 80 different pain relievers, aspirin, ibuprofen, acetaminophen, different doses, coated, uncoated, liquid gels.
40 toothpastes, 150 lipsticks, one brand alone offering 90 shades of nail polish. It's almost comical how excessive it is for things that used to have maybe, 3 or 4 options?
And hundreds of shampoos, conditioners, gels.
Oh, don't even get me started on hair care. And food staples. The source lists 230 soup options, 230, including 29 different kinds of chicken soup.
29 chicken soups? How is that even possible?
I have no idea. 16 types of instant mashed potatoes, 75 instant gravies, 120 pasta sauces, 175 salad dressings, 16 of which are just Italian.
And if none of those work, you can choose from 15 olive oils and 42 vinegars to make your own dressing from scratch.
And the cereal aisle. 275 varieties, 24 kinds of oatmeal, 7 different Cheerios, 22 types of frozen waffles. It's just an endless landscape of tiny, draining decisions.
And what this really highlights is that every single one of those tiny choices, however small it seems, takes up cognitive bandwidth. It requires effort.
Right.
So grocery shopping, which should be fairly routine, turns into this constant stream of micro decisions.
Yeah.
Comparing prices, checking labels, trying to figure out the best option. It adds complexity.
It makes it less enjoyable, too, because you're forced to think so much rather than just grab the thing you need. It turns a chore into homework.
Exactly. And it's not just the stuff we buy often, like groceries, where maybe habit eventually kicks in. Think about buying electronics. That's a whole different level.
Oh, yeah. TVs, flat panels, different sizes, refresh rates, smart features, sound quality. The specs are endless.
Our source mentioned a time when a store might have 30 different VCRs and 50 DVD players and stereo systems. You could pick from like 74 tuners, 55 CD players, 32 tape decks, 50 speaker sets.
You do the math on that.
If you mixed and matched, it comes out to something like 6.5 million possible stereo system combinations.
That's insane.
Right. And even if you just wanted an integrated system, there were still 63 of those to choose from.
And the tricky part there is, unlike groceries, you don't buy a TV or a stereo very often.
Exactly. So you can't really rely on habit. Plus, the technology changes so fast.
Your old one is basically obsolete by the time you need a new one.
Right. So every time it feels like you're starting from scratch, making this big, expensive decision, and the stakes feel higher because you're stuck with it for a while if you choose poorly, or you have to go through the whole draining process again.
Okay, so this isn't just about buying stuff. This explosion of choice, as the research shows, it bleeds into like every major area of our lives. It's changing fundamental institutions, like education.
Yeah, the source calls higher education an intellectual shopping mall now, which is a really evocative phrase.
It is. A century ago, college was much more about a fixed curriculum, right? Instilling shared values, ethics, a common knowledge base.
Shaping citizens, essentially, through a shared intellectual journey.
And now, forget it. There's basically no fixed curriculum, no single course every student has to take. The whole idea of telling students what they should learn or how they should live, that's pretty much gone.
Our source points to places like Harvard. Even with their core curriculum, it's still something like 220 courses across 7 broad areas.
So the chances of 2 random Harvard grads having taken even a few of the same classes are really low.
Very low. Princeton offers 350 courses, Stanford even more, even smaller schools like Swarthmore, 300 and 350 students, but 120 courses just to meet general requirements.
So on one hand, great, you can tailor your education exactly to your interests. Amazing flexibility.
But the flip side?
The flip side is this huge burden falls on students. They have to make choices that genuinely impact their whole lives. Career paths, how they think, who they become.
And they're often making these massive decisions when they're, 18, 19, 20, without necessarily having the life experience, the self-knowledge, or maybe even the guidance to choose wisely.
It's a massive, often unspoken pressure.
And look at entertainment. Not that long ago, it was, 3 TV networks, maybe a couple of local stations.
Yeah, Walter Cronkite, that was kind of it.
Now, my cable box alone offers like 270 channels, and that's before you even count streaming services, on-demand movies, niche sports packages.
Plus VCRs, then picture-in-picture, now TiVo, streaming boxes, devices that basically create your own personal TV station.
Yeah.
Algorithms learning what you like, suggesting more.
We've gone from appointment television to watch literally anything, anytime, often without commercials. It's a total shift in control, this seemingly bottomless menu of media options.
And this pattern extends even to basic services, things we used to take for granted.
Yeah.
Utilities, for example.
Right. Phone service, electricity. Used to be regulated monopolies. You didn't choose your provider, you just got service.
Then Maya Bell broke up.
And suddenly, bam, a crazy number of options for long distance. Then local, now cell phones. You probably get junk mail or calls every week from companies wanting you to switch.
Electricity deregulation followed in many places. Again, it's figured out for yourself.
And here's that paradox again. Most people say they want more control over their lives.
Sure.
But a lot of people also say they want to simplify their lives.
Yeah.
And you see this play out. Many people just don't switch providers even when they could save money.
Like the AT&T example, they kept 60% of the market long after they were broken up. Or only 15% of people in Philly shopping for cheaper electricity.
And the danger there is, without the old regulations, if you don't actively shop around and choose, you might end up paying way more for the exact same service. You're almost penalized for not engaging with the choice.
So the responsibility is shifted. It used to be on institutions, regulators, to manage these things for us.
No, increasingly, the burden is squarely on the individual to navigate all this complexity, and that's incredibly clear when you look at health and well-being.
Health insurance.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The choices are baffling, even for experts sometimes. And employers are shifting responsibility too, right? With retirement plans.
Absolutely. The number of mutual fund options for retirement savings exploded, over 5,000 choices out there. Our source had this striking example of an employee who had like 83% of her retirement savings tied up in the company's volatile stock.
And she had no idea.
Totally unaware of the massive risk she was taking because the options were just too numerous, too complex to really grasp without expert help.
That really hits home, the personal risk involved when the choices become that overwhelming. And medical care itself has changed dramatically.
Big time. It used to be very paternalistic. Doctor knows best, just do what they say. Now, it's much more common for doctors to array the possibilities, lay out the pros and cons of different treatments, and the patient makes the final call.
Which sounds empowering, like patient autonomy, which is good.
It does sound good, but the research shows it's more complicated. Like 65% of people say they'd want to choose their cancer treatment.
But when they actually get cancer?
Only 12% actually want to make that choice. When faced with that terrifying reality, what patients really want, the data suggests, is competence and kindness from their doctor, not necessarily the burden of making complex life or death decisions themselves.
Are we even equipped for that level of decision-making, especially with the information explosion?
That's a huge question. You've got lay guides, magazines, the internet. Making medical decisions can feel less like talking to your doctor and more like researching a term paper, but with, infinitely higher stakes.
It's a flood of data, often conflicting, sometimes just wrong.
And people are clearly searching. Americans spent $27 billion on unproven, non-traditional remedies back in 1997 alone. And then you add in direct-to-consumer drug advertising, which really took off after 97.
Right, the ads telling you to ask your doctor about this specific pill.
It fundamentally changes the dynamic. It can make doctors feel like they're just there to write the prescription the patient already decided they want based on an ad.
The patient becomes the decider, the doctor the instrument. And this goes even deeper, doesn't it? Affecting how we see ourselves, our bodies.
Absolutely. Cosmetic surgery is a prime example. It used to be seen as correcting a flaw, maybe, or dealing with an accident. Now it's framed as self-improvement and achievement.
Like it's just another choice you make, like choosing a hairstyle.
Pretty much. Over 1 million procedures back in 1999, liposuctions, breast implants, facelifts. It's become almost commonplace. And the implication, as one journalist put it, is that being unattractive or homely isn't just bad luck anymore. It's a failure.
Wow. That's a heavy burden. It makes appearance a matter of choice and therefore personal responsibility.
A huge burden. And the choices just keep coming. Think about work and careers. Social mobility means, theoretically, more options open to more people. College grads aren't as tied to their parents' jobs or hometowns.
Plus technology, telecommuting, flexible hours.
Right. We have incredible flexibility about when and where we work, but that also means constant minute-by-minute choices. Am I working now? Should I be working? Am I being productive enough?
And even who we work for is less stable. The source notes the average 32-year-old has already had, 9 jobs.
9 companies. Job hopping is the norm. Staying somewhere for 5 years can almost seem suspicious now.
That old Microsoft ad, where do you want to go today? It wasn't just about the internet, was it?
Not at all. It captured the spirit of constant self-direction, always looking for the next opportunity, the next big chance, which sounds great, but it also means a constant burden. Gathering info, weighing options, always being alert.
Even deciding what to wear to work isn't simple anymore, with dress codes relaxing.
It's relentless, and it reaches into the most personal parts of our lives. Marriage, having kids, these aren't default paths anymore.
Right. They're conscious choices about timing, who your partner is, their career, religion, how you'll raise kids.
Society now allows for, as the source puts it, almost every imaginable arrangement of intimate relations, each one requiring deliberate thought and selection.
And religion, too. It used to be mostly inherited.
Largely. Now, while many still follow their parents, there's immense freedom to choose your specific flavor of faith, or no faith at all. Religious institutions almost function like a marketplace.
A market for comfort, tranquility, spirituality, where people shopped around.
Yeah, religion consumers. Which is great if you find something that truly resonates, but it also puts the onus on you to decide, what do I believe? Where do I belong? In a world with endless options, that's a heavy existential lift.
Which leads to maybe the biggest choice of all. Who am I? How do I define myself?
Exactly. Identity itself has become a choice in a way it never was before. It's gone from being implicit, just sort of given, to being explicit and very real psychologically.
Like the example of the student identifying as Latina or Mexican or woman or immigrant or teenager, depending on the context.
Right. We're constantly asking ourselves to choose and perform these multiple, sometimes shifting identities. It's a uniquely modern demand.
What's so striking looking back at all this is that each individual choice seems good. More cracker options, sure, more TV channels, great. More career paths, fantastic. More ways to be me. Empowering.
On their own, yes. But the source calls this the tyranny of small decisions.
Oh.
It's the cumulative effect, the sheer weight of all these choices, big and small, piling up day after day. That's what leads to this feeling of substantial distress.
We vote yes to choice in every specific situation.
But we never get a chance to vote on the whole overwhelming package. Yet, by saying yes piece by piece, we're inadvertently creating this world where choice itself becomes the burden. Okay, so we've seen how choice has exploded. Now, let's get into the psychological toll this takes. And a really fundamental concept here coming out of the research is the difference between maximizers and satisficers.
Right, I've heard those terms. Can you break down what they mean and why they're so key to understanding this whole choice problem?
Sure. So a maximizer, think of them as someone who is driven to find and accept only the absolute best. Nothing less will do.
Perfectionists, almost.
In a way, but with a specific focus on outcomes. The classic example is that sweater shopper in our source material. They find a sweater they actually like, it fits, it looks good, but they can't just buy it.
Why not?
Because they feel this intense need to check every other store, browse every website, read all the reviews, just to be absolutely certain there isn't a slightly better sweater or a better deal somewhere else.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Their search is essentially endless, because how can you ever be 100% sure you've seen everything? It leads to this constant low-level anxiety, this nagging feeling about the options they haven't explored yet, the possibility that something better is lurking out there.
So even after they choose, they're wondering, was there a better sweater, a better job, a better vacation spot? It's like they can never really be content.
Exactly. It undermines satisfaction. Now, contrast that with a satisficer.
Okay.
A satisficer is looking for good enough. They figure out what their standards are, what criteria they need to meet, and once they find an option that meets those standards, they choose it and they stop looking.
So they're still discerning they have standards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They might do just as much research initially, but the key difference is once their criteria are met, they feel satisfied. They're not tortured by the possibility that something marginally better might exist. Their decision process actually has an end point.
Okay, I can definitely see elements of both in myself, probably depending on the situation. How do researchers figure out who's who? Is there, like, a test?
There is. They develop tools like the maximization scale. It's typically a set of statements, maybe 13 or so, and you rate how much you agree on a scale, usually 1 to 7.
And your total score tells you where you lean.
Pretty much. Scores range from 13 to 91. Average is around 50. If you're scoring up around 65 or higher, you're leaning strongly towards maximizing. Below 40, you're more on the satisficing end. And interestingly, they haven't found significant differences between men and women on this.
Can you give an example? What kind of statement would a real maximizer strongly agree with? What's going on in their head?
Okay, so a maximizer would likely give a 6 or 7 to statements like, no matter how satisfied I am with my job, it's only right for me to be on the lookout for better opportunities.
Always looking over the fence.
Right. Or when I watch TV, I channel surf, often scanning through the available options, even while attempting to watch one program. They might strongly agree with, I never settle for second best, or I have the highest standards for myself.
This sounds like it could lead to agonizing over tiny details, or even getting stuck, like writer's block, because you're trying to make it perfect.
Exactly. That drive for the absolute best can be paralyzing.
So this constant striving for the pinnacle. What does the research say about how happy these maximizers actually are?
Well, this is where it gets really stark. The studies consistently find a strong correlation. People who score high on maximization report significantly less satisfaction with life overall. They tend to be less happy, less optimistic, and this is pretty concerning. They score higher on measures of depression.
Higher depression scores.
Yeah. Individuals scoring 65 or more on that 91-point scale often fall into ranges considered borderline clinically depressed.
Wow, now correlation isn't causation, right?
Right, we have to be careful there. But the researchers strongly believe that the maximizing strategy itself plays a causal role. That constant pursuit of the unattainable best is inherently exhausting and ultimately, well, depressing. It sets you up for disappointment.
It makes total sense. If your goal is always the absolute peak, you're almost never going to feel like you've reached it. You'll always fall short, which must tie into regret too, that awful what-if feeling.
Yeah. Huge connection. Maximizers are much more prone to regret in all its forms, especially buyer's remorse. They buy something and then they're immediately second-guessing, imagining the rejected options were better. They're constantly nagged by options they haven't had time to investigate.
And it's not just after the choice, is it? They worry about regret before they even choose.
Yes, that's anticipated regret.
No.
You're agonizing about how bad you'll feel if you make the wrong choice, and if you later discover a better option, that fear of future regret can trap you in indecision, making the whole process miserable even before you commit.
So it's this endless loop of if only, playing in their heads before and after.
Precisely. And this ties into something called omission bias. We tend to regret actions we take that turn out badly more than we regret not taking an action, even if the outcome is the same bad result.
Like the stock example. The guy who switched stocks and lost money feels worse than the guy who thought about switching, didn't, and lost the same amount.
Exactly. 92% of people think the guy who acted, Mr. George, feels worse. It shows this interesting thing. Short term, we regret bad choices, bad actions. Long term, though, we often regret the things we didn't do, the missed opportunities, the inaction.
And regret is stronger when you are really close to a better outcome, right? Like the Olympic silver medalists feeling worse than bronze sometimes.
Yes. That near-miss effect is powerful. Being second makes the gold feel agonizingly close. And regret is especially potent when you feel personally responsible for the bad outcome.
Which brings us back to choice.
Exactly. The more choices you have, the more responsibility you feel for the outcome. If there are 85 crackers and you pick one you don't like, who can you blame but yourself? That fuels regret. It also helps explain why we fall prey to sunk costs.
Ah, right. Throwing good money after bad, basically.
Yeah, sticking with something just because you've already invested time or money, even if it's clearly not working out, like keeping those expensive shoes that hurt your feet and feeling you have to wear them sometimes, or going on that prepaid ski trip even though the weather's awful and you don't really want to go.
Why do we do that? It seems so irrational.
A big part of it is regret aversion. We want to avoid feeling the regret of having wasted that initial investment. And studies show this effect is stronger when you feel personally responsible for that initial decision to buy the shoes or the tickets.
Okay, so our brains are constantly running these what-if scenarios, these counterfactuals, imagining how things could have been different.
Right. And if you imagine better outcomes, upward counterfactuals, it almost inevitably makes you feel worse about the outcome you actually got. Regret, frustration, dissatisfaction.
And the more great options there were that you didn't choose.
The easier it is to imagine those better outcomes. Each attractive, rejected option becomes fuel for those in only thoughts. It directly erodes your satisfaction with the choice you made. Every comparison makes your choice seem less special.
Which leads us right into the next big problem.
Yeah.
Adaptation. Why the thrill wears off.
Yes, hedonic adaptation. It's a fundamental human trait. We get used to things. And when we get used to them, we start taking them for granted.
Like my first computer. It had like 8K of memory and it felt like magic. Now my phone has thousands of times more power, and I complain if it lags for a second.
Perfect example. Or cable TV. When it first arrived, it was amazing. Endless possibilities. Now, people flip through hundreds of channels moaning, "There's nothing on." Our baseline just keeps shifting upwards.
Like car air conditioning. Used to be a luxury. Now it feels like a necessity for many people.
Exactly. The standard of comfort rises. What was once a delightful bonus becomes the expected norm, and eventually something you feel deprived without.
So it's not just familiarity, it's that the new, better thing resets our baseline for what feels neutral or good.
Precisely. That salary raise feels great for a while. Then it just becomes your salary, your new reference point. Lottery winners are a classic case, huge initial joy, but often, months later, they report being roughly as happy as they were before. Their new wealth makes ordinary pleasures seem less enjoyable by comparison.
It sounds like that hedonic treadmill idea. You have to keep running faster and faster just to stay in the same place, happiness-wise.
That's exactly it. The philosopher Tibor Sofsky talked about this pleasure is often tied to novelty. When the novelty wears off, pleasure fades into mere comfort, which can feel disappointing.
Especially with things we see all the time, like our car or our house. They're constant reminders that the initial thrill is gone.
Right, and that disappointment can drive us to seek more novelty, more new things, more choices, perpetually chasing that initial high, but never quite reaching lasting satisfaction. You adapt not just to the thing, but to the level of pleasure itself, always needing a bigger hit.
And the really frustrating part is, we're apparently terrible at predicting this. We think that new car or that big promotion will make us sustainably happier, but
We're remarkably bad at predicting how various experiences will make us feel in the long run. The study comparing Midwesterners' predictions of Californians' happiness is a great example. They focused only on the weather and massively overestimated how happy Californians were, ignoring all the other daily hassles.
like traffic.
Exactly. Or look at the tenure study with professors. They hugely overestimated how joyful getting tenure would be and how devastating denial would be. But down the road, their reported well-being was pretty much the same regardless of the outcome.
Why are we so bad at predicting this?
A big reason is we fail to anticipate how quickly we'll adapt. We focus on the initial impact and forget that it won't feel that way forever.
And if you connect that back to choice, if you put a ton of effort into making a decision, researching, comparing,
Your expectations for the payoff, for the enjoyment, go way up.
right, you expect it to be amazing because you worked so hard for it.
And then when adaptation kicks in and dulls that enjoyment faster than you expected, the whole thing feels not worth the effort. Choice starts to feel like a burden, not a privilege, because the reward doesn't match the perceived cost of choosing.
Ugh. Okay, so adaptation is one thing. Then there's the curse of comparison, how other people mess with our happiness.
Yeah, this is huge. Very few experiences feel good or bad in a vacuum. We're constantly comparing.
Comparing to what?
Three main things. Our own past experiences. Was this meal as good as that amazing one I had last year? Our expectations. The review said this place was life-changing. And maybe most powerfully, comparing ourselves to other people. Social comparison.
So that amazing meal can be ruined if my friend just posted pictures of an even more amazing looking meal on Instagram.
Pretty much. Or if the reviews set your expectations impossibly high. And this happens on a societal level too. As things generally get better, materially speaking, our standards rise.
Things that used to be fine or even luxuries become unacceptable. The curse of discernment.
Right. Our baseline for what's good enough keeps creeping up. That's another treadmill, the satisfaction treadmill. Even if things are objectively better, we don't feel subjectively happier because our reference point has moved. We're running in place again.
And social comparison feels almost inescapable today, with social media everywhere.
It really is. And we tend to engage mostly in upward comparison, looking at people who seem to be doing better, have more, look happier.
Which usually makes us feel
Jealous, inadequate, stressed, lowers our self-esteem. Occasionally it might inspire us, but more often it's negative. Downward comparison, looking at those worse off, can give a temporary boost, but it often comes with guilt or fear.
And we can't just switch it off, can we? Social information is just there all the time.
Exactly. It's much harder to control than, say, our own internal counterfactual thoughts. The comparisons are constantly being pushed at us.
This must feed into that whole status anxiety thing, the need to be a big fish in our own pond.
Absolutely. Remember that study where people preferred making $50,000 when everyone else made $25,000 over making $100,000 when everyone else made $200,000?
Yeah, that's fascinating. Relative position mattered more than absolute wealth.
It shows how deeply wired social comparison is, especially when it comes to positional goods, things that are inherently scarce, like prime real estate, or things whose value drops if too many people have them.
Like an exclusive club that suddenly lets everyone in.
Right. Competing for those things becomes a zero-sum game. Good enough isn't good enough, only the guest will do. It forces you into that maximizer mindset, into a rat race where just standing still means falling behind.
And how does this play out differently for maximizers versus satisficers? Who gets hit harder by all this comparing?
Oh, maximizers, by far. Their mood, their satisfaction, their self-worth are incredibly sensitive to how they stack up against others. If they find out someone else did better on a task or got a better deal, it significantly poisons their own enjoyment.
Whereas satisficers?
Satisficers rely much more on their own internal benchmarks. They're less bothered by what others are doing or achieving. They're more anchored in their own definition of good enough, which, again, makes them much better equipped to handle a world full of comparisons.
Okay, this is painting a pretty bleak picture. All this choice leads to maximizing, regret, adaptation, comparison, and it seems to be linked to a rise in unhappiness and even depression.
The data is really sobering. You mentioned the U.S. GDP doubling over 30 years, yet the number of people saying they were very happy actually went down by 5%. That's millions of people. Happiness with jobs, marriage, finances, similar declines. More stuff, objectively, but less subjective well-being.
And depression rates soaring.
Yeah. Estimates suggest clinical depression became maybe 10 times more likely over a generation or two. The societal cost is enormous impact on families, work, healthcare, and, tragically, much higher suicide rates among depressed individuals.
But wait, there's that huge paradox with control, right? Seligman's work on learned helplessness showed how lack of control is bad. Dogs getting inescapable shocks just gave up.
Right. And conversely, studies show having control is crucial for well-being, from babies enjoying making a mobile move to elderly people in nursing homes living longer and being more alert when given even small choices.
So if our modern world gives us more choice, more control than ever before, shouldn't depression be decreasing? Why is it exploding?
That's the million-dollar question. And a big part of the answer seems to lie in our attributional style, how we explain failures, the stories we tell ourselves about why things go wrong.
Yeah.
An optimistic style sees failure as temporary, specific, maybe due to external factors. I bombed the interview because I had the flu and it wasn't the right fit anyway. That fosters resilience.
But a pessimistic style
Sees failure as permanent, pervasive, and deeply personal. I bombed because I'm just bad at interviews. I'm not charismatic. I'll probably fail at everything. That style leads straight towards helplessness and depression.
and our culture pushes us towards.
Towards the personal explanation. The intense focus on individualism, on being the master of your own destiny, means that when we fail, we're encouraged to blame ourselves, our own shortcomings, rather than circumstances.
So when we inevitably fall short of the perfect job or the perfect body or perfect happiness, we blame ourselves.
Exactly. And that self-blame is amplified because our expectations have become wildly inflated. We're subtly conditioned to expect perfection in everything. A perfect marriage, a dream job, looking flawless, feeling happy all the time.
Which is totally unrealistic.
Completely. So when reality inevitably falls short, it's not just a disappointment, it feels like a personal failure. A failure that, in this world overflowing with choices, we convince ourselves could have been avoided if only we'd made the right choice.
The weight of that responsibility.
It's immense. And this intense individualism also tends to weaken our connections to supportive groups, families, communities, religious groups. Those social ties are like a crucial buffer, a vaccine against depression.
Like the Amish community example. Strong social ties, very limited life choices, and much lower depression rates.
Right. When everything is up to you, you bear the full psychological weight of the outcomes. If it goes wrong, the blame falls squarely on your shoulders.
And this illusion of total control is maybe most toxic with things like body image.
Definitely. The culture tells us weight, for example, is purely about personal choice and willpower, often ignoring complex biological and environmental factors. So failing to achieve the often unrealistic ideal body feels like a moral failing, a lack of discipline.
Which contributes to eating disorders, higher depression rates, especially for women who face intense pressure.
It's a perfect storm of unattainable expectations fueled by choice, leading to self-blame. And the irony is, what seems good for the individual total autonomy, freedom can become toxic at a societal level.
Like the finding that nations valuing personal freedom the most also tend to have higher suicide rates.
Yeah, it's this strange phenomenon called hedonic lag. We keep valuing something, like absolute freedom, long after it stops delivering the emotional payoff, maybe even after it starts causing harm. It's this complex mess. Rising expectations, hyper-awareness of opportunity costs, aversion to trade-offs, adaptation, regret, self-blame, social comparison, maximizing. It all weaves together to create this pervasive distress.
Okay, wow, that was a lot. It feels a bit like we're trapped in this cycle, this sort of gilded cage of endless options that's making us miserable. Is there a way out? Are there practical things we can actually do to handle this better and feel, well, happier?
Yes, absolutely. It's not hopeless. The fundamental shift we need to make, the core idea, is that subjective experience matters more than objective results.
Meaning how you feel about the choice is more important than whether it was technically the best one.
Precisely. If the whole process of choosing, the agonizing, the research, the second-guessing, the regret leaves you feeling drained and worse off about the car or the vacation or even the crackers you finally picked, then you haven't really gained anything. Even if, on paper, it was the optimal choice, we need to optimize for satisfaction, not just for optimality.
Okay, that makes sense. Focus on feeling good about the choice, not just making the right one. So what are the concrete steps? Where do we start?
First, and maybe the most powerful for reclaiming some sanity, choose when to choose.
Choose when to choose.
Yeah. Realize you can't eliminate all the negative effects of choice overload, and you probably wouldn't want to, but you can be strategic. Decide which decisions actually deserve your time, your energy, your focus.
The ones that really matter to you align with your values.
Exactly. And for everything else, just let it go. Let opportunities pass by. Don't feel obligated to engage with every single choice that comes your way. Be ruthless about where you invest your decision-making energy.
Like the author's story about phone service versus the toaster. He agonized over phone plans, then realized he bought a toaster almost on impulse, just picking one that seemed fine.
Right. And then he consciously applied that toaster strategy to the phone decision. It's about conserving your cognitive resources for the choices that truly have impact.
Okay, choose when to choose. What's next?
Second, satisfice more and maximize less. We've seen how maximizers suffer the most in this environment. They're crushed by high expectations, plagued by regret, obsessed with comparison.
So the antidote is learn to be happy with good enough.
Exactly. And good enough doesn't mean mediocre. It means figuring out what your actual needs and standards are for a particular decision, finding something that meets those standards, and then crucially stopping the search.
Don't keep looking just in case something marginally better exists.
Right. Think about areas where you already do this naturally, where you satisfice without even thinking about it. Maybe buying socks or picking a brand of pasta. Then try to consciously extend that approach to more areas of your life where you tend to maximize and stress yourself out.
That's a really practical idea.
Yeah.
Find your inner satisficer and give them more power. Okay, number 3.
Third, think about the opportunity costs of opportunity costs. Okay, that sounds a bit complicated.
Yeah, unpack that one.
So considering alternatives, opportunity cost is important for making good decisions. You need to know what you're giving up. But dwelling endlessly on all the attractive things you didn't choose after the fact, that just makes you miserable. It actively subtracts from your enjoyment of what you did choose.
So consider the options beforehand, but once you've chosen, try to let the others go.
Yes. Consciously limit how much mental energy you spend ruminating on the rejected paths. And for simple, routine stuff, develop habits. Buy the same brand you trust. Don't automatically jump at every new and improved label unless you actually have a problem with the old one. Let friends or reviews tell you if something truly revolutionary comes along. Don't constantly scan the horizon yourself. It saves so much mental churn.
Create defaults for yourself. Protect your peace. Okay, that makes sense for small things. What about bigger decisions?
Fourth strategy, make your decisions non-reversible. This feels totally wrong in our culture, right? We love return policies, money-back guarantees, keeping our options open.
Yeah, no commitment feels like freedom.
But the psychological research points the other way. Having the option to easily reverse a decision often makes us less satisfied with the choice we made.
Really? Why?
Because when a decision is final, when there's no easy way back, our brains do this amazing thing. They start doing psychological work to justify the choice. We actively look for reasons to like it, to appreciate it, to feel good about it because we're stuck with it. We convince ourselves it was the right call.
So taking away the escape hatch actually makes you happier with where you are, like the idea of traditional marriage vows being unbreakable.
That's a potential interpretation, yes. Viewing a commitment like marriage as permanent and sacred might, paradoxically, lead to greater satisfaction because both partners are psychologically motivated to make it work, to find the good in it, rather than constantly wondering about alternatives or regretting their choice. It shuts down the comparison engine.
That's fascinating and definitely counterintuitive. Okay, what else?
Fifth, practice gratitude. This is such a powerful antidote to so many of these negative cycles. Actively, consciously focus on what's good in your life, how much better things are than they could have been or were before.
How does that help with choice overload?
It directly counters adaptation, that tendency to take things for granted. It resets your baseline. It also combats the disappointment that comes from unmet expectations. And it's simple to do. Keep a notebook by your bed, spend 2 minutes writing down 5 things you're grateful for, big or small.
Like the coffee tasted good, or my kid gave me a hug, or I finished that project.
Anything. It feels a bit weird at first, maybe, but over time, it genuinely helps you appreciate your current life more, and it lessens that constant itch for something new and improved.
That's definitely doable and connects to the expectation problem we talked about. So managing expectations must be another strategy.
Absolutely. Number 6, control your expectations. So much of our satisfaction, or lack thereof, comes down to the gap between what we expect and what we actually get.
So if you expect perfection, you're almost guaranteed to be disappointed.
Pretty much. So consciously lowering unrealistically high expectations is one of the most direct routes to feeling more satisfied. Don't expect every meal to be Michelin star quality, or every vacation to be flawless, or every job to be completely fulfilling every single day. Aim for pretty good. Be wary of things that inflate expectations, glowing reviews, perfect Instagram feeds. Allow reality to be pleasantly surprising sometimes rather than constantly falling short of some impossible ideal.
Let go of perfectionism. Got it. What about the comparison trap?
7th, curtail social comparison. We know it usually makes us feel worse, so make a conscious effort to pay less attention to what other people are doing, achieving, or possessing.
Easier said than done in our hyper-connected world.
It is hard, especially for maximizers, but it's worth the effort. Maybe curate your social media feeds, spend less time scrolling things that trigger envy. Remind yourself to focus on your own journey, your own progress, your own definition of success. Stay in your own lane.
Stay in your own lane. I like that. Okay, last one. What's the final piece of advice?
8th, and maybe it ties a lot of this together, embrace voluntary constraints.
Constraints. But isn't freedom the goal?
Remember the tyranny of choice. Sometimes too much freedom, too many options becomes the opposite of liberating. It becomes paralyzing. So learning to see certain limits, rules, or routines not as restrictions, but as helpful structures that free you up, that's powerful.
How so?
Society gives us rules and norms that, yeah, can be annoying, but often they simplify things. More importantly, personal habits and routines, consciously chosen, can eliminate countless small, draining decisions from your day.
Like deciding to always eat the same thing for breakfast or always wear certain type of outfit for work.
Exactly. Or choosing a default setting on your computer and just sticking with it. By setting these kinds of voluntary constraints, you make those decisions disappear. You vanish the hassle. And that frees up an enormous amount of mental space, time, and energy for the choices that really matter, the ones that bring you actual joy or move you toward your goals.
It's like that fishbowl analogy from the source material. The bowl seems limiting.
But the constraints of the bowl are actually what allow the fish to swim around, explore, live its life, without constantly worrying about basic survival in a vast, dangerous ocean. The limits enable a different kind of freedom.
Freedom within structure. A freedom from the constant burden of choosing everything.
Precisely. It's about deliberately choosing not to engage with every possibility in order to more fully engage with the possibilities that truly count. It's choosing focus over sprawl. #Tegra outro.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's a big takeaway for you listening right now, trying to navigate this world? We've really dug into how this explosion of choice, which feels like progress, can actually bite us.
Yeah.
It can make us less happy, more anxious, even contribute to depression.
Yeah, we've seen the traps. Trying to maximize everything, getting bogged down in regret, adapting too quickly to good things, constantly comparing ourselves to others, and blaming ourselves when things aren't perfect.
But, and this is the crucial part, this isn't about saying choice is bad or that we should give up our freedom.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Absolutely not. It's about understanding the hidden downsides, the psychological costs of having too much choice. And it's about equipping yourself with some tools, some strategies to handle it better.
To be more intentional, less overwhelmed.
Right. It's about learning to choose when to choose, embracing good enough instead of chasing perfection, consciously letting go of regret and comparison, practicing gratitude for what you have, keeping expectations realistic, and yes, even welcoming some voluntary constraints to simplify your life.
Because maybe, just maybe, in a world that's constantly screaming, more, faster, newer, better, the most radical, the most effective way to actually improve your well-being isn't to chase after more options,
but to deliberately choose less, to choose fewer, better things, to learn to truly appreciate what you already have or what is simply genuinely good enough for a rich and satisfying life.
So here's something to think about as you go about your day. What choices could you consciously decide to limit or simplify in your own life?
Yeah, what daily decisions could you automate or eliminate? What endless scrolling could you stop? What voluntary constraints could you embrace? Not as a sacrifice, but as a way to free up your time, your energy, your attention. For the choices and experiences that truly matter, the ones that actually make you feel alive and fulfilled. What could you let go of to gain a different, maybe deeper kind of freedom?